Have you ever felt an inexplicable heaviness in your soul, as though you were carrying a weight far larger than any typical worry or stress? If so, you might be standing on the threshold of something far greater than mere exhaustion. There's a possibility that this very heaviness signals a profound turning point, a signal you're entering the dark night of the soul, one of life's deepest spiritual crises. Many spiritual teachers and psychologists agree that what feels like a plunge into darkness can be the catalyst for remarkable transformation, leading you toward a rebirth more illuminating than you ever imagined. It may sound daunting, yet this struggle has historically been recognized as a passage of immense growth, described by figures like St. John of the Cross, and echoed in the journeys of countless individuals through the centuries. Imagine pausing at the edge of an abyss, peering into a void that seems overwhelming, only to realize that beyond it lies your greatest light. Before we uncover the specific signs that point to a spiritual rebirth, consider this. What if the bleakness you sense isn't just despair, but a doorway to an expanded version of who you are? This very question could keep you watching, hinting that you might be on the brink of a life-altering transformation. Don't wait until it's too late. If even a flicker of resonance stirs within you now, feel free to support this journey by hitting the like button and subscribing. Such simple actions can become a small but powerful signal of commitment, not just to an online channel, but to your own unfolding path of growth. Dark night of the soul is a term that has existed for centuries, often described as a period of intense emptiness and spiritual dryness. Beyond the poetic words, it speaks of a universal experience, a crisis so profound that your sense of who you are and what life means is challenged at its core. Psychologically, it parallels what Carl Jung described as shadow work, that integral act of turning inward to face the parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden. When Jung talked about the shadow, he was pointing out how ignoring our buried fears and unresolved traumas only leads them to manifest in more jarring ways. Similarly, Joseph Campbell's Hero's journey captures the essence of this dark passage, a descent into unknown realms where one must confront a formidable challenge before emerging transformed. If you've ever questioned the meaning behind your greatest hardships, this perspective offers a beacon of understanding. The crisis, as overwhelming as it feels, can be the root system that nourishes your most authentic self. Although everyone's path is unique, many who go through a dark night realize they're experiencing something monumental only in hindsight. To help you identify where you stand, let's explore 7 signs that often indicate a spiritual rebirth is underway, even if, at this moment, it just feels like chaos. The first sign is a profound sense of detachment from your old ways of being. You might notice that what once seemed so important, your job title, social status, or a rigid self-image, no longer stirs you like it used to. There's a quiet voice inside that questions whether you're living in alignment with your deeper truth. This shift can feel disorienting or even frightening because it suggests your old identity is dissolving. In psychology, this process relates to what some call ego death. The ego isn't just pride or arrogance. It's the sense of self we craft through beliefs, habits, and social conditioning. When that structure begins to crumble, it can feel like you're losing grip on who you are. Yet in reality, you're making room for a more expansive identity. Individuals who experience ego death frequently describe a renewed clarity on what truly matters: love, compassion, a purposeful life. Rather than dwelling on what was, they start gravitating toward what could be. The second sign involves an unsettling but ultimately enlightening reevaluation of long-held beliefs. Perhaps spiritual concepts you once took for granted now seem insufficient, or rigid dogmas begin to unravel before your eyes. It can also manifest in everyday thinking. You find yourself questioning the roles you've played or the relationships you've maintained purely out of habit. The mind starts digging deeper, propelled by a need for authenticity. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, offers a useful lens here, suggesting that reframing negative thought patterns can significantly alter your emotional landscape. When you're ready to let go of beliefs that have constrained you, a hidden reservoir of strength emerges. This re-examination of your mental framework might be terrifying, like stepping off a familiar shore into unknown water. But as you swim further, you realize the ocean of potential is vast, and you are capable of navigating it. A third sign surfaces through heightened emotional sensitivity, coupled with noticeable physical shifts. Some report changes in sleep patterns, appetite, or levels of energy. There can be bursts of insight during meditation, or even unusual dreams that leave you shaken and thoughtful. Don't be alarmed if tension knots in your shoulders or if your stomach churns with nervous energy at odd times. In integrative psychology, there's growing understanding of how body and spirit communicate. Emotions that have been suppressed might now flood your conscious awareness, leading you to experience tears more easily or become more empathetic toward others' pain. Imagine that your inner world is like a neglected garden. Once you start tending to it, pulling weeds, planting seeds, you become more aware of every shift in the soil and environment. Although the changes can feel overwhelming, they're also an unmistakable sign of growth. A fourth sign appears when you begin to let go of old patterns and realize you're entering new territory. This is where transformation is most visible in your day-to-day life. Perhaps arguments you once engaged in no longer provoke the same reaction. Or maybe you find a sudden desire to change your routine, whether through mindfulness practices, journaling, or adopting healthier habits. If you see that your typical coping mechanisms, like diving into social media or venting without reflection, suddenly feel hollow, it suggests you're stepping away from what no longer serves you. Real-life examples abound. A person who loses a job they thought defined their self-worth might discover a long-suppressed calling to teach or create art. Another might heal from a devastating relationship by realizing they were never truly alone, tapping into a depth of self-love they'd never suspected was there. Each case underscores the same universal message. When one door slams shut, it can jar you into discovering corridors of possibility you never knew existed. A fifth sign is the willingness to embrace uncertainty and even find opportunity in it. Rather than viewing the unknown as a void, you start perceiving it as a canvas where new dreams can be painted. It's an internal shift that might feel simultaneously disconcerting and liberating. You might wake up one morning and recognize that much of life is beyond your control, but instead of collapsing in anxiety, you feel an unexpected peace. This is where practices like meditation become especially powerful. By sitting quietly with the unpredictability of life, you build psychological resilience, something Viktor Frankl touched upon when he wrote about finding meaning in suffering. Though your story might not parallel the hardships he endured, his central idea rings true. When you commit to discovering meaning even in turmoil, you equip yourself with an inner resource that no external crisis can easily topple. Embracing uncertainty doesn't mean giving up. It means recognizing that in the mystery lies untapped potential for growth. A sixth sign emerges when you begin to see the world through new eyes, experiencing increased empathy, compassion, and a profound connectedness to all living things. It might manifest as a sudden desire to help others or volunteer in your community, or you could find yourself deeply moved by simple acts of kindness. This new depth of feeling suggests you're stepping into the kind of self-actualization Abraham Maslow described near the top of his hierarchy of needs. Beyond basic survival, beyond the pursuit of esteem, there lies a dimension where life becomes less about me and more about us. Many people find that this reawakened empathy extends even to strangers or animals. One day, you might catch yourself quietly appreciating the beauty of a sunset or a piece of music, marveling at the delicate interconnections that make it all possible. Some individuals who emerge from their dark night channel this empathy into advocacy, championing causes that resonate with them deeply. They might volunteer at shelters or join support groups, sharing their experiences in ways that uplift others. These transformations illustrate an essential point. The surge of compassion isn't just a personal gift. It's also a gift you're now more inclined to share with the world. Finally, the seventh sign is the arrival of a renewed sense of purpose and meaning in your life. Where there was once confusion, you now observe a thread weaving through your experiences, tying together your past struggles, your shifting mindset, and your new outlook. The puzzle pieces that once felt scattered begin to form a picture. In many respects, this is the culmination of the entire journey, a moment when you realize your darkest nights have indeed served a purpose, fueling your empathy, reshaping your values, and highlighting your inner strength. You might recognize this spark of purpose in something that lights you up from within, whether it's a passion project, a career shift, or a newfound dedication to personal relationships. Joseph Campbell once said to follow your bliss, and though that phrase might sound simplistic, it points to an important truth. When you align with what genuinely moves your heart, the hardships that once haunted you transform into stepping stones. They become part of your heroic narrative, rather than dead ends on the map. By this point, you may find you've already encountered more than one of these signs. Perhaps the reevaluation of beliefs resonates, or you've noticed physical and emotional changes swirling within you. A weighty gloom might still linger, but there's also a glimmer of possibility that stirs a cautious optimism. If so, you've likely been in the thick of your dark night of the soul, and these signals indicate that a spiritual rebirth is brewing. None of this suggests the journey is easy, or that you'll never encounter dark moments again. Transformation can come in waves, and each wave can bring its own challenges. But the key is understanding that you're not lost. You're on a path where every struggle can be a lesson, every tear a teacher, and every revelation a seed for new growth. If you're noticing these changes, consider sharing how they've shown up in your life. Others reading your story might discover an echo of their own experiences, or they might find a guiding spark they've been searching for. By connecting in this way, you add depth to your personal journey and foster a sense of community among those who might feel isolated in their struggles. Every comment, every reflection can become a part of the collective healing process, reminding us that no one has to walk through this darkness alone. Throughout history, many have traversed such trials and emerged with heightened self-awareness and renewed purpose. The testimonies come from all walks of life. A mother who rediscovers her passion for art, a corporate professional who leaves a high-powered job to work with underprivileged youth, or an anxious introvert who blossoms into a confident mentor in her community. These stories demonstrate that the dark night of the soul isn't a singular, one-size-fits-all experience. It morphs to each person's psyche and life circumstances. Yet, in each case, the individuals share a common realization. True light is most radiant when you have known profound darkness. As you reflect on these signs, notice if one resonates more deeply than the others. Perhaps the notion of letting go of old patterns strikes a chord. Or maybe the emphasis on emotional sensitivity and physical changes reminds you of something you're currently experiencing. This heightened awareness is valuable. It reveals that you're alive to your inner journey, open to new understandings, and receptive to the subtle guidance that life offers. In bridging both psychological and spiritual dimensions, you create a balanced approach to self-discovery, one that honors empirical insights like those of Carl Jung or integrative psychology, while embracing the expansive wisdom found in timeless spiritual teachings. The beauty of a spiritual rebirth lies in how it reshapes your day-to-day reality. While grand revelations and mystical experiences certainly have their place, the real magic often shows up in quieter moments, in how you choose compassion over judgment, presence over distraction, gratitude over resentment. This shift doesn't occur overnight. It unfolds through consistent heartfelt practice, whether that's mindfulness meditation to manage anxiety, reflective journaling to track your emotional evolution, or simply pausing to take a few deep, mindful breaths whenever life feels overwhelming. Over time, The rebirth you experience may lead you to reevaluate your purpose and realign your life's direction, weaving greater joy, meaning, and service into every choice you make. If you sense these words align with what's happening within you, please remember that you aren't alone. There's a shared global community of people in various stages of this passage, each grappling with their own shadows and emerging with insights that can uplift others. Feel free to contribute your perspective, ask questions, or exchange reflections in the comments. Through openness and vulnerability, we cultivate a supportive space where each person's hardships can become collective wisdom. That, in itself, is a transformative act of compassion. Be gentle with yourself if you find you're still standing on the edge of that metaphorical abyss, shrouded in the darkness of the unknown. Sometimes, acknowledging you're in the middle of a dark night is the most courageous step of all, because it suggests you're no longer in denial about your internal struggles. You're willing to face them, to embrace the call for growth rather than running from it. The light you seek is already at hand, waiting patiently for the moment you decide to turn toward it. Even if your vision is dim now, the pathway will grow clearer with each step, each breath, each glimmer of insight that surfaces from your soul's quiet depths. Whenever you're ready, I encourage you to gather that courage and move forward. Little by little, piece by piece, you'll unearth the hidden gems buried in the darkest corners of your life. In that process, you'll discover something extraordinary. As you evolve, the entire world around you seems to transform as well. You begin to notice connections that were previously invisible, and find meaning in places where you once saw only emptiness. In the end, you emerge not as a perfect being. No one ever truly is, but as someone more compassionate, more attuned, and more aligned with your soul's genuine calling. If this resonates, don't hesitate to like and subscribe, because this is just one stepping stone in an ongoing conversation about personal transformation. Each new insight might spark another revelation for you, helping you sustain the growth you've already set in motion. Feel free to share your personal breakthroughs or lingering questions, whether in the comments or with those closest to you. Such sharing weaves us into a tapestry of collective healing, where each thread represents a unique journey through darkness into light. Take a moment to acknowledge how far you've come, regardless of whether you're at the beginning, middle, or near the crest of this transformative wave. Even the smallest step deserves recognition, because every step forward expands the borders of your potential. As you continue along your path, keep in mind that the dark night is not an endless, merciless void, but a fertile ground for seeding profound change. Consider how a forest regenerates after a fire. What seems like devastation eventually gives birth to new growth that couldn't have existed without the old being cleared away. In your own life, that cleansing might feel like heartbreak, confusion, or despair. But rest assured, it's also a clearing for something more authentic. In the quiet aftermath, sprouts of insight, empathy, and renewed purpose begin to push through, reaching for the nourishment of the sun. And that is the essence of your rebirth. A moment when you look at the space once occupied by sorrow and realize it's become a cradle for deeper wisdom. No matter where you stand right now, recognize that these 7 signs, detachment from your old identity, thorough reevaluation of beliefs, emotional and physical upheaval, letting go of outdated patterns, embracing uncertainty, expanded empathy, embracing uncertainty, expanded empathy. A renewed sense of purpose, are beacons lighting the way. They guide you to see the extraordinary transformation already unfolding in the midst of your everyday life. As you walk this path, be patient with yourself, celebrate your progress, and offer the same grace to others on their own journeys. The world needs every person who's willing to emerge from the darkness with a more compassionate and awakened heart. Thank you for allowing these words into your space. Let them serve as a gentle reminder that even the darkest corridors can lead to rooms filled with light. Feel free to reflect on your personal experiences and share them below, so that others navigating their own night can find a glimmer of hope in your story. Wherever you are in this transformative process, know that the very intensity of your challenges may be the proof of just how bright your inner flame can become. Embrace it all. Every tear, every revelation, and every surge of clarity. In doing so, you honor the transformative power of the human spirit, stepping boldly toward the ultimate realization that you are not alone, and that rebirth is indeed within reach for those prepared to cross the threshold.